Hi, I'm Dr. Anthony Rizzi of the Institute for Advanced Physics, here to talk to you about Faith Matters. Today I want to talk to you about The Wrath of Khan, and this is recently the 40th anniversary of this movie, which starts with an episode in the old series from the 60s about Khan that introduces to us Khan. And in that movie, he gets condemned and he says, it's better to reign in hell than to serve in heaven. So this movie is going to be about the fight between heaven and hell, basically the fight between good and evil, the fundamental fight that the church is undergoing all the time. And this is the battle we talk about in the St. Michael prayer, defend us in battle. And this story begins with Captain Kirk receiving a birthday present from Spock that is The Tale of Two Cities. And the movie parallels and uses this book as well as multiple books. So what happens is they come upon Khan in a deserted planet where the cargo hull that his group was staying in, Khan's group was staying in, was discovered. And inside there they have a bunch of books that are referencing various things. They have Moby Dick, Inferno, Paradise Lost, very Christian-oriented books. Moby Dick, for example, talks about, I think, the fight that we have to not want to be good, to not want to fight God. And he talks about the whiteness of the whale as a symbolism of divine, and that our fight with the divine of not wanting to do what we're supposed to do. So Khan very much represents this guy that's trying to fight the divine. And Kirk, by the way, is Old English. Kirk sort of represents the central of the goodness, as Kirk is Old English for church. And in the movie, it comes to a point where they're fighting it out, and again, you get a quote from Moby Dick where Khan says to Kirk, "For hate's sake, I leap out at you." And so hate versus life versus death is throughout the thing. And finally, it comes to a point where life versus death, where Spock's friends' life are at risk, and the whole ship's life is at risk. It's basically he sacrifices himself, or he sacrifices himself with his friends. So he goes to save his friends, and he says the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one. And I talk about this in another clip. And it perfectly balances the rest of the episodes that show the unity, the need for the individual to be part of the common good. And the movie draws this point home when it has at the end, Spock dies does save the Enterprise and all her crew. And he is ejected onto the planet in a torpedo tube, which is his coffin, and they do Amazing Grace. And at the end, Kirk is asked about what he thinks about what's going on, and he says, Spock has given me a message on my birthday, which is, and he quotes the last line of The Tale of Two Cities, which is the book he gave him, which says, it's a far, far better thing that I do than I've ever done before, a far, far better place that I go than I've ever gone before. So he's talking about his act of virtue, and the act of virtue having brought him to this better place, which is obviously a reference to heaven, and it's a reference to the Genesis planet, which is about life. So you constantly have this struggle between life and death, and we're asked to choose life. So I ask you to watch this movie again and rethink it in terms of these deep things, and not the kind of shallow, sort of glitzy tendency we might have to interpret it. And think about these things, heaven versus hell. Thank you for listening. This has been Faith Matters.